I am really excited, you guys, to interview my special guest today, who I've only recently met. So it's a crazy story, but Marcel Machado, originally from Brazil, trilingual, bachelor's in animation design, and my current massage therapist. So he is currently in school, but he learned how to navigate the US social economical system as an asylee, which I would love for you to share a little bit. And his goal, right, is to be in the mental health field and learn holistic approaches to help marginalized social groups, which include the refugees, people of color, and the LGBTQAI, which he'll explain. And I also am going to have him describe or define what dysphoria is. I would love to know how many people who are watching this have even heard of dysphoria, and talk a little bit about your own experience with conversion therapy. And as a parent, grandparent, aunt, or uncle, what is the best thing that they can do to make their, have their child, their niece, nephew, grandchild feel loved and not feel judged? Because I think a lot of kids who are not even in these marginalized social groups feel judged, feel unworthy, and have low self-esteem without all of this additional stuff to deal with, right? But thank you so much. You guys, I've only known him for a few months, and we had lunch the other day, and I said, I need to interview you because I think you have a wealth of experience and information at the young age of 29. I think you're an old soul.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Karen. You're so sweet to be doing this with me. I really appreciate you. And like you said, we just met a couple of months ago. You were one of my clients, and we had this amazing, crazy section where we just couldn't stop talking to each other.
It's crazy.
And it was very nice. And we just became, I think, very open to each other. And I think that's how relationships normally happen. You just look at someone and then you just go from there. But I don't want to get too much ahead of myself. I just want to thank you for the opportunity. And I think this is a very nice topic and a really nice platform for us to be talking about these things. And let's just get started with
your background and your experience. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm originally from Brazil and 29 years old. I moved to the US 6 years ago. I was 23 by the time I moved here. And I had an animation design degree, but I knew that I didn't want to do that for a living, and I wanted to become a holistic therapist, mainly because of the way the holistic approaches have helped me just find my true self and find love towards myself and just guide myself through my own journey, right? Looking for wellness. And a couple of things that we normally face when we are inserted from one place to another, which is the definition of dysphoria. You have to find a way to cope with everything that's being thrown to you all the time. So cultural differences, socioeconomic status, or how to cope with the job that you have, the family that you're introduced to, or the people that become your family, your friends, and how to relate to what people like, what they don't like, or how to be around these groups and find yourself in a healthy, well, positive environment, right? Mm-hmm. And I was in California when I moved here. San Diego, I lived there for about 4 years and a half, almost 5. And it was a very big shock for me just coming from a country, from a town that's very conservative back in Brazil, and just being in California where everything's super liberal. Gay people are just everywhere, and we have just so many rights, and there's people, there are governors, there's so many, parties and things happening within the community and reaching out to the outside community as well. And being there and feeling like I was celebrated most of my time, it was such a completely different feeling compared to coming from Brazil. And just experiencing all of that, it made me realize how much I had gone through in order to just find a place where I can just be myself. And it always goes back to, finding that full circle on how do I feel at ease, how do I feel well with myself without having to need anything else, just knowing that I'm okay. And, going through my experiences, conversion therapy and just very homophobic parents, and just having to put that all in paper, all these traumatic experiences, to talking to a lawyer. This process of asylum happened to me 2 years ago. I was going to the asylum. Actually, yesterday I celebrated 2 years of being granted asylum, so that's very exciting.
Congratulations. So can you share a little bit, what was that like?
Yeah, so pretty much I was living in San Diego. I became an undocumented immigrant, and I was just working and just trying to make my life happen, trying to focus on where I wanted to be, right? Knowing that I wanted to become a holistic therapist and just focus on that. Eventually, the situation back in my home country was just going downhill with the new president that was elected, Bolsonaro. And with that, not just me, but a lot of other Brazilian friends that I have were actually granted asylum as well, because we were running out of options. We knew that as soon as the new president was elected, the numbers of suicide attempts, the number of aggressions towards the LGBT community just went up. And being in a place like that, knowing that you potentially have to go back somewhere like that, just gives you a lot of anxiety, a lot of issues, in especially mental health related issues. And I was going through that when that happened. A couple of my friends told me, Marcel, we should definitely apply for asylum and, share as much information as you can on your piece of paper, which is very frustrating. I had to have had help from therapists just to be able to, okay, so let's talk about these things that I lived through that are not considered normal or not considered healthy that you had to go through, because we need to, make your case strong enough. So just sharing, very homophobic parents, very homophobic, suffering bullying throughout my whole entire school life, pretty much. Coming out to my parents at the age of 18 and being sent to conversion therapy, just, being told that maybe you're just confused, maybe what you like, it's something that you haven't just experienced, and just, not validating my voice, not giving my voice any type of rights. So passing through that, all of that together, and just, working in society, of course, getting a degree, which I'm very grateful for. It opened up my mind to have a more critical analysis. Just after all of that, those experiences, I decided to move to California, where my cousin has lived for a lot of time, and just having that support of an outside member of the family, just giving you an opportunity to just begin everything on your own, was pretty much my case that was submitted to the U.S. government. And within like a month or so, my case was approved, and so was a bunch of other Brazilian friends that I have. And there's still some others being granted asylum up to this year, just because of the circumstances. And I think those are specific topics that are nurturing my desire to actually work not with these marginalized communities, to make sure that they understand that the reason why we're going through sometimes rough times and difficult challenges that are social related, they're not because of who you are specifically, but historically you have had no appreciation, or you are not viewed as a person sometimes, and you were put into this category of less than such. And for that reason, most people forget to treat you as equal. And just to bring that perspective that they deserve to be treated correctly, that to be feel loved, that they deserve to be surrounded by people that accept them for who they are, is, I guess, my goal. That's gonna last most definitely for the rest of my life. And just being able to talk about this and just, uncovering a little bit of that, just makes me feel very grateful overall. I want to ask you, what is the next topic that we should be covering now? Just to make sure I don't talk too much.
Well, what can parents and grandparents and teachers and uncles and aunties, how can they make, because that's the whole thing, right? When someone feels less than, not good enough, not worthy, they really believe that, to the point where sometimes there are suicidal thoughts, or they just feel like, no, I'm not even going to pursue my passion because I can't do it. So you were just mentioning before, we did this recording, that what can parents, or what can we do to just, so that people don't have to suffer the way that you did, people don't have to feel like that they're destined for a life as less than, right?
Yes,
and society judges them just because of their different lifestyle.
Correct.
Any
and I think that's
advice?
Yes, I think on that subject, it comes from a very vulnerable place that a lot of people are afraid of touching bases with. And it's totally understandable, totally acceptable. And I want people to know that the LGBT community in the US has branches all over the states, and they have supportive groups for parents, supportive groups for family members, for LGBTQ people that are in need. And they have access to educational programs for these families as well. And I think that's the main thing that parents and anybody should be looking for. Just because when your child is coming out to you and you just don't know how to deal with that, because you are not someone in the LGBT community, most likely you're going to be needing help to understand all the criteria or what your child is, right? And it's a very simple process of just listening to them and questioning and telling them, I'm sorry, but I don't know exactly how to help you with this because I don't understand these terms. But you shouldn't expect your child to teach you those terms and to bring to you all the knowledge. And now you're going to be my guide to help me understand on how to love you. That is a very hard emotional baggage for anyone in the community, because you're asking them to be vulnerable enough for them to just basically, in a simple way that I can put it, you're asking them to cry, to explain to you why they deserve to be respected.
Right. Well, plus they're still learning to navigate, right? They're probably at a very young age in the beginning of their journey. So what did you want the most? Was it like acceptance, not to be judged?
Was acceptance and feeling safe. In most cases, that simple thoughts that people are going to have of you can determine a lot. Thoughts become actions, right? And some people might look at you and think, oh, this person acts a little weird. I wonder if they are this, or if they're that, if they're this or this or that. And you start treating that person differently because of an assumption that you have. And that becomes, and people can see that, people can feel that, people can understand. If you're not vibing with them, they can feel it. And especially if you are always being looked down on and you're trying to protect yourself and survive, you create this barrier that you're just a very sensitive person, and you don't want to put yourself through any harm. So you make your choices. I'm going to interact with this person because this person is giving me off a good vibe, or this person is just treating me nicely and talking to me like I would like to be talked to. So there's a lot to uncover, because the child is growing. They're trying to find out. They're trying to surround themselves with friends that are going to understand them, love them for who they are, and give them right advice. But in most cases, I see a lot of LGBTQ people not having access to therapy, or just not going to therapy, not taking that seriously, because it's already a huge step for you to take. Let me understand myself, let me understand society, and just go from there. But also not just that, the parents should be the ones focusing on learning to love their child for who they are, and learning all the terms, and making it fun. A lot of LGBTQ places making it fun, like, oh, how to identify if this person is gay, lesbian, or transgender, or non-binary. How to talk to them, how to get to know them for who they are. And so I think that's the first step, admitting that you're ignorant on that aspect, and being ignorant is fine. A lot of people just don't know enough about a lot of things, and just telling your child that, and looking for help yourself, not just for your child, but for yourself as well, because that can provide a much safer environment for the child itself, recognizing that their experiences are going to be very different than yours, and most people that you're surrounded by. If you're in a heteronormative community surrounded by a lot of heterosexual people, and you just become less in number, and you just don't know how to cope with those different case scenarios. So my best advice would be vulnerability, understanding of your ignorance, if that's an easy way to put it, and just looking for help, not just for your child, but for yourself, because it comes with a lot of emotional understanding. Your EQ is going to evolve a lot, just up on that subject again. It's not something, it is something logical, it's something that you can understand in your brain, but you have to be vulnerable enough to just grasp into the nuances of how is my child feeling? I want to make sure that my child is being able to understand that they deserve to be loved, that they deserve to have an amazing job, be able to, pursue an amazing career, and that nothing should be able to stop them from living a life of joy and, challenges like everyone else has, but in a way that it doesn't have to push them away all the time and make them feel like they don't belong. And for that specific reason, I see that a lot of LGBTQ people, especially here in Hawaii, where the majority of the population still has the heteronormative mentality, where you're either straight or you're gay, but everybody is, the spaces that are created are heteronormative. They're owned by heterosexual people in most times. So you just learn to navigate through these case scenarios by yourself, but knowing that you have someone to count on, like a family member, that's just precious. So you don't have to spend a lot of time on your own trying to find that person that can be just a friend, a good friend for you to talk to, a good friend to give you advice, and for you not to feel, oh, how do I explain this that I'm going through? How do I explain this that I'm feeling without being judged? And that's
a big thing, right? I think being judged. I mean, when you look at teens in general, they already feel judged no matter what preference they are sexually, or just their ideas, their opinions, very, very judged, and like regarding grades, right? Oh my gosh, I don't fit into whatever norm is. And now we're realizing, right, there really is no norm. There's so many different personalities and categories. But I think you touched on like the main thing, which a lot of kids just want, is to feel safe to express and to know that they will be loved no matter what. I mean, the more I talk to you, I've been educating for about 27 years, and even if they get video games taken away, even if they get their cell phones taken away, I understand the most important thing that they just dread is when they disappoint their parents. So my last question to you is, did you feel any type of disappointment when your parents forced you to do the conversion therapy, or express their opinion on their how they felt toward the minorities and the gay community? How did you even handle that when it comes from your own parents?
Yeah, so that was a difficult way for me to channel their perspective towards me, because one of the things that was going on once I had, after going through conversion therapy, that's when I had my first suicidal attempt. And that was the moment that my parents realized that, no, we need to be listening to them, and we need to give him a little bit more freedom. If he's saying something, we're going to let him find out who he really is. But that came, that lesson had to be learned through a lot of arguing, through a lot of fighting, a lot of, just a heavy baggage that you have to go through. And I don't wish that on anybody. But the biggest advice, or the thing that I regretted the most, was just not feeling like everything that I was saying was coming one ear and getting out of the other. Like even the therapist told them. So therapy, the therapist talked to my father and mother, just telling them that they wanted to see them. We want to talk to you guys now because, we're doing some progress with Marcel, but I want to make sure that I want to touch bases with you guys as well. My parents refused to help. And that was one of the things that just clicked me. That was the moment that I was like, okay, so I'm the one doing all the work, and my parents are just not caring about it. And so with that, biggest disappointment was when you lose a lot of respect, you get in a lot of anger, and you can spiral down really quickly because there's nothing else you can do to try and ask for help, because you're turning to the ones that are supposed to be helping you.
Well, I'm sure you crave that, right? You crave that acceptance, you crave their love and support because you did your part, and you just wanted your parents to do their part.
Yes, and that never happened on my parents' behalf. So it's been always radical acceptance, understand that they are not willing to do the work, but you are. So you keep doing the work for yourself, and you go find that help somewhere else, right? And but that comes with a lot of hardships, of course, for everybody does. And you just have to find really good coping skills in the first place. know how to, bring yourself to a rational level and understand that you're worthy, and look for worthiness somewhere else, in a way that's also very healthy, and look for help that's actually logical. Don't try to find that, oh, let me just go have a sleepover at my friend's house and make things feel better. You have to face things properly. Go find yourself a therapist, go find the appropriate help, go live with a family member that is accepting and loving. But also don't forget that the help needs to be done from inside out. You need to unfold and actually grow as a person like anyone else and have access to that safe environment. So yeah, I guess that's how I would put it.
Wow. Yeah, but that's a lot. I mean, thank you so much. Yeah. You just, in a nutshell, I was telling Marcel we have to do part 2 because well, you know what? I don't think there are very many. I mean, there's TV programs, there's, like you said, resources. But if you're a child, say a 13-year-old going to, say, Milani Middle, they're going to, Pro City Elementary School, and sometimes even at a young age, that something's different. But I think you hesitate because of fear of acceptance, fear of, like you said, bullying, and just uncertain about this journey that you've never navigated before.
Correct. Yeah. Yes. And that summarizes it all. Just understanding that historically, gay people, the LGBT community, has always existed, not under this name. Queer people have always existed. Transgender people have always existed. And in a lot of cultures nowadays, even the Samoans, if you only have boys, the youngest boy is going to be considered the one to do the female chores. And they're raised in that way up until this day. So historically speaking, we've been there for this whole entire time. But 300 years ago, religion had a big impact on, Catholic and Christian religion had a big impact on how society was supposed to behave. And these other communities, these other marginalized groups were pushed aside and not considered acceptable. And we still suffer from that perspective up until this day. So it's another thing for you to realize as well. You have a lot of good intentions, especially if you're someone that goes to church a lot, like my parents were. They wanted to do what was best for us as parents because they were doing what society expected them to do as good parents. But they never realized that because of that social construct, a person that I was suffering in huge amounts of levels, emotionally, mentally, and physically as well. I was a very chubby kid, very big kid. Throughout my teenage years, I was obese. And so I had to lose all the weight myself, do the mental health work all myself, and look for that help on my own just to feel comfortable on my own skin. So it's a long, long journey for you to, and a lot of wasted time. When I look back and I'm just like, I wish I could have had someone to just guide me through this, So it's just more of like they say nowadays, representation matters, and see openly gay person, as your neighbor, and just having a nice conversation with them and talking about, what are you having for dinner? Come over for dinner, or just like get to know each other type of thing. It's just one of those things that shows your kids, shows your family members, or even society that you are doing the work yourself. And I think that's the main key. In order for us to stop looking just through the outside and judging by their appearances, get to know them for who they are, and with that comes a lot of vulnerability, but it's a work that never ends. We're all in need of that more than ever, especially with all the things that are going on because of COVID. Mental health is much needed, and it's a profession that's just raising up in the next couple of years. So it's about time for us to start having these conversations that are much more important than the simple ones, or what are we having for dinner, right? So
well, it's uncomfortable, but I think you have chosen the perfect career. I mean, you have passion, purpose, and I think just because of the experiences that you've endured, you have the empathy because you've been through it. And I think you're doing a service for all these. He's working with kids now, right? At the YMCA, is it?
Yes. So I'm focusing on school full time now. I worked at the YMCA for about a year here in Kailua, and it was just an amazing experience. I'm still very close to my manager, and I still go visit the kids every once in a while. So it's just that one feeling of just like, hey, I can really make a difference to these kids, and just look at them in the eyes and get to know them for who they are, what they like and what they don't like. It's already a huge difference. And I'm sure some of these kids are going to remember me just by me, myself. So that's
definitely. And then what you're teaching them is that we should embrace who we are no matter what, you know, and that way, when you are vulnerable and you learn to be, you know, love yourself, then it wouldn't matter who accepts you and who doesn't. Otherwise, you're living this fake life trying to, right, live up to social media standards or live up to who you think society respects or who you think you should be. And then you don't even live with authenticity, right? I mean, that's why I think that's why I connected, because of my passion to, you know, educate parents and to help them, you know, parent with less stress. I think what you just said, right? It's like truly learning about your child, loving them no matter what, and educating yourself, right? Because sometimes I think we don't even realize that we need education, not just the academic part, but just learning how our child thinks, you know, what our child loves. Because I don't know about you, but, you know, there's some parents who are like, you know, I'm into soccer, so you're going to be in soccer. You know, I'm into gymnastics, so you're going to be a gymnast. And
exactly,
you know, that would be pure hell for me if my parents forced me to do anything athletic. I would be like, oh my gosh, you know. But then other people, you know, I have students who just love soccer. But if you become that parent who wants your legacy, you know, that it has to be carried on. That's a lot of stress and a lot of pressure, don't you think? Because some kids may not even like what parent feels passionate about.
Yeah, and you're just setting up your own disappointment at that point. If you realize that you're forcing someone to do, because deep down you know that if that's your dream, if that's your child's dream, because you can pay enough attention to the child and actually realize if they are really into it, if they're not, and just gotta let them, you know, uncover themselves and make sure that they're comfortable sharing with you what they like and what they don't like, and just going from there. It's just learning.
That's a lot of resentment. I had a student who did soccer for 10 years, and after 10 years, they finally let her quit at age 15.
Oh my God, poor child. For so long.
And then she chose ukulele, you know, she was like really happy. But, you know, soccer or a lot of, you know, if you choose a sport, that is, you are committed, you know, to practices and games. And if it's something that you don't like, it's like I always tell parents, you know, this distance learning, it's like going to classes about taxes or something that you can't stand every single day. And their parents are like, let's do more homework on taxes and let's do more classes on taxes, you know, or whatever. You don't, you know, if you're a tax attorney and you love it, then you can't relate to that. But it has to be something where you're in this distance learning and the whole, you know, so this is what's going to be difficult, because now that kids are going back, a lot of kids are telling me that they don't want to because they're getting used to the distance learning, right? Staying at home in the pajamas, doing school this way. And then you have the other spectrum where they cannot wait to be in person. And it'll be interesting. So I would love to plan our part 2, and we'll find, Marcel and I have like so many different types of conversations. And I think this is very, very useful though, because it's not really talked about, right?
Yes, I believe so too. I was so happy to actually have you just show up out of nowhere. Literally.
Yeah, show up out of nowhere, seriously. It's like, can you give me a massage? Oh yeah, can I interview you? That's pretty much how it was.
Yeah, and then you just gave me your card after the first result. I was like, oh, okay, this is all.
Yeah, because you're like, oh, I can't give my number, and then I noticed when you gave the card, he gave me the massage place card, and I looked in the back, and I thought, oh, he gave me his number. I was just telling Marcel, it's a good thing that he is gay, because my husband would be like, what is this guy giving you? And I'm gonna have lunch with him when you're on Maui, but you know what? Don't worry about it.
That is hilarious. I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh. Always, you know, navigating the system the way that I do.
It's synchronicity, don't you think? Yeah, this was definitely synchronicity, and I look forward to being your friend forever, because we will learn a lot of stuff. And that reminds me, I better book another massage appointment. In fact, you know what? I have a really quick story. I told my husband, hey, can you give me a massage? And I gave him the massage cream, and he goes, what's Marcel's number? I was like, just 3 minutes. Okay, I'll just make an appointment.
You know what? I should start creating videos on YouTube teaching couples how to massage each other. Just like, oh, I had a stressful day. I need a, you know, neck and shoulder massage or something like that. Teaching your child to do a massage.
Well, I've taught Sabrina, so she will do that. Mom, this is her mom. Do you want a massage? Meaning she wants a massage, right? But it's like it's the best 3 minutes ever. After you're done, you think we should do this every day. You know,
I am telling you.
Neck. I mean, even like a self massage. I do mama meditations, and my last one was on just like your hands, you know, your neck. I mean, you of course, of all people, would know that just 3 minutes of just a simple, you know, mini massage. If you can't get anyone else to do it, then you know,
do it for yourself. Just
do it for yourself. Exactly.
And that's amazing. Oh yeah, this is another thing for parents as well, not to forget self-care. For them and for their kids. Align those things with your child too. Let's do some self-care. We're going to take care of ourselves today. We don't have to talk about anything if you don't want to. But let's get together and take care of ourselves. That
is one of my, I'm going to plug it, 100 parenting tips. It actually is, because we don't do self-care, and if we don't role model it, we're going to create another generation who doesn't put self-care first. Yes. And I bet that's what led you possibly to the massage field, right? I mean, it's all taking care of yourself.
Yes. Just making sure that I'm going towards this path that's, you know, authenticity, wellness. I don't want to have to go through these ups and downs so much anymore. I want to make sure that, you know, my life is, I want to live a quality life. I want to live a life that I can pursue my dreams without having to stress so much. And, you know, not being that mentality of hustle, and just get out of that mentality, you know, speak through your actions and just be someone that's looking for health and for wellness, being well with yourself.
And if you do that, guess what? Cancer rates will go down, depression rates, blood pressure, heart attacks, right? All will be minimized.
Yes,
if we just do the self-care. Thank you so much, and I will forward you this interview. You can show it to your parents and your whoever.
Oh my gosh, I would love that. Yes, they better be ready to watch.
Thanks, Marcel. Okay, bye.
Bye.